Yo, lifelong learner Bluewood here with episode 11 of the Azure AZ-104 exam prep series, Managing Virtual Machines. Thanks for tuning in. In this episode, we will be identifying and implementing different options for deploying and configuring Azure virtual machines. We'll determine different compute and storage resiliency and scalability options with virtual machines, and also virtual machine scale sets. Additionally, we'll be automatically configuring virtual machines and virtual machine scale sets by using the Azure Virtual Machine Custom Script extension. With that said, here are the objectives that we will accomplish in this video. There's quite a few, so I'm not going to read them out loud, but feel free to pause the video to see what's up. Alright, so let's get right into it. Let's start off by deploying virtual machines into different availability zones, first by using Azure Portal and then ARM templates. Deploying resources into different availability zones makes them zone resilient, protecting your resources from data center failures. So, in the Azure portal, let's quickly configure and deploy a zone resilient virtual machine. Let's search for virtual machines, then add a new virtual machine. I don't have a resource group created yet, so let's quickly create one. Make sure to choose your correct region, whatever's closest to you or your client. Here under availability options, we're going to click availability zone, and then underneath availability zone, we're going to choose the first availability zone out of 3. And then under image, I'm just going to go ahead and click Windows Server 2019 Data Center. And then I'm just going to pick the cheapest option. And then for username and password, set it whatever you like. Alright. I'm going to leave this as is. Again, this is just for test purposes. On to the next tab, which is the disk tab. We're just going to leave this as is. Under the networking tab, we're just going to leave it as is. Under the Management tab, we're actually going to change an option here. We're going to change the boot diagnostics to enable with custom storage account. And then we're just going to accept this default value. And then we're not going to touch the Advanced tab, so we're going to go ahead and review and create. And after validation passed, let's just deploy our machine. This should take a minute or two. After the deployment completed, here on the left, let's click Template. From here, let's go ahead and click Deploy. And on this custom deployment page, we have the option to edit the values of this new virtual machine. Let's assign it to our resource group. Let's change the network interface name. Let's change the IP name. And the virtual machine name. Let's also change the virtual machine computer name as well. Provided a password. And here, for the zone value, make sure to change this to 2. Agree to the terms and conditions, and go ahead and purchase the template. After that deployment completed, let's scale compute for our virtual machines by changing their size, and scale their storage by attaching and configuring their data disks. So let's move into the resource group we created, and it should contain both of our virtual machines. And it does. So let's click the first one. And on the left pane under settings, let's click size. Let's click a much larger size and resize the machine. This should only take a minute or two. While that's resizing, under the left pane here, let's go to disks. And under data disks, let's go ahead and click create and attach a new disk. Provide the disk a name. and change this size. I'm going to change it to a terabyte. And go ahead and click Save. After that's done, let's go ahead and just create a second disk. After those disks successfully deployed, on the left pane, under Operations, let's go to Run Command, click Run PowerShell script, and then I'm going to paste in this command. What this command is going to do, it's simply going to create a new Z drive consisting of the two newly attached disks to this virtual machine. I'll paste it in the description below in case you're following along. But before moving on, make sure that this script successfully runs. It should only take a minute or two. After that script successfully executed, let's go back to the resource group and let's go ahead and click on the second virtual machine this time. On the left underneath the automation tab, let's go to export template. Just like last time, we're going to go ahead and click deploy. Notice how we're getting an error pertaining to the resource group stating that we have to move this resource into a different resource group. Believe it or not, we could actually ignore this error. Let's click on the edit template option, and then for the VM size variable, we're actually going to go ahead and change this value to DS1 V2, which is a very popular VM size. This is actually the same size that I chose for the first virtual machine when I made that most recent change. Next, under data disks, this value is empty, but we're going to go ahead and fill up this value. And you guessed it, we're going to be filling up this value with two brand new disks pertaining to this specific VM. Notice how the settings are the exact same as the settings of the last VM's data disk, except this time the names are different. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that template. I'm going to scroll down, accept the terms and conditions, and then go ahead and purchase this custom template for my deployment. After validation is successful, just give it a minute or two to deploy. Okay, after that deployment was successful, we're going to do the same thing as we did with the first virtual machine when it comes to creating a new Z drive. So let's go down to Operations, Run Command, Run PowerShell script, and then paste in the same command. And click Run. Again, before doing anything else, make sure this script successfully completes. Now that we've finished with changing the sizes of our machines and scaled their storage, let's quickly set up Microsoft.Insights and Microsoft.AlertsManagement. Insights will provide monitoring for your live applications, and AlertsManagement will provide the ability to manage alerts from said insights. We can quickly register both via the Cloud Shell. So in the portal, let's open up the Cloud Shell. Running this simple command will register Microsoft Insights. And then next I want to register Alerts Management with this simple command. And that's that. Next, let's quickly deploy Zone Brazilian Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets with the Azure portal. Virtual machine scale sets are groups of individual virtual machines that us administrators can configure and manage as a single unit. We can use scale sets to our advantage to multiply productivity while drastically reducing any user error in configurations. Let's search for virtual machine scale sets. And let's add a new one. I'm going to create a new resource group for these scale sets. And then provide the scale set a name, of course. provide the region that works best for you. And I'm going to click all three availability zones. Doing this will ensure zone resiliency. For the image, I'm just going to click again Windows Server 2019 and then choose the cheapest one. And then set up a username and password. Check off licensing for my testing purposes. And then move on to disks. Here I'm going to settle for the defaults and then click networking. Here we're going to create a new virtual network. I'm going to leave the name, make sure it's in the correct new resource group. I'm going to trash this address space and provide it a specific one that I can keep track of. /20. And then for the subnet, let's just provide it a simple name and give it an address range of /24. And save that. Here under the network interface, let's go ahead and edit this interface. Here under the NIC network security group, let's go ahead and click advanced. So we can configure a new network security group. Go to create new. And let's add a new inbound rule. And the values we're going to change on this new rule are the destination port ranges, which is just going to be 80. We're going to change this to TCP. Obviously the action is going to be allow. And the name is going to be, let's just call it custom allow HTTP, because that's exactly what this rule is doing. It's allowing any HTTP connections, because as we know, port 80 is for HTTP. So let's go ahead and add that. Confirm that it's added, and then click OK. Before we click OK again, let's make sure that public IP address is enabled, and then feel free to click OK now. Now before we move on to scaling, again in the networking tab, let's turn on load balancing. And for the load balancing settings, let's leave these as is. Now let's move on to scaling. I'm going to make sure that my instance count is still 2 and the scaling policy is selected as manual. The rest I will leave as is and move on to management. As I did with the virtual machines, I'm going to change the monitoring option to enable with custom storage account. And then I'm going to leave this as is. And then move on to health tab. Here I'm not going to turn on the application health monitoring and just move forward to the advanced tab. And I'm also going to leave this as is. And then move forward with the review and create. After validation passed, I'm going to go ahead and create my scale sets, and this should take a few minutes to deploy. And that's the end of episode 11. If you have followed along with this video, you have deployed zone resilient Azure virtual machines by using the Azure portal, scaled compute and storage for Azure virtual machines, and also deployed zone resilient Azure virtual machine scale sets by using the Azure portal. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or if it helped you out even in the slightest, please like and maybe subscribe for future content. Additionally, if you have any suggestions or questions, please leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to help out any possible way I can. I'll see you guys in episode 12 where we will implement web applications. Peace.